Hello, gorgeous souls, and welcome to this episode of Tales of Tigrosa. It has been a hot minute since I have poured into the podcast and recorded an episode. Life has just been lifing lately. It has been full on with the initiations and the tests and the teachings and the revelations. And I'm so excited to be back and devoting to this podcast because I feel like I just have so many teachings I want to share, so many reflections that this journey has brought me that I feel like you guys will resonate with. And I'm just, really excited to start sharing this magic and wisdom that I have been receiving from this past season of life with you guys. So for today's episode, I wanted to offer a very vulnerable share about my own personal journey with navigating the illness and the death of my stepmother, Kirsty, or Christina, as her family likes to call her, my dad's wife. She passed away February 12th, which is why I've kind of been MIA. I had to take a moment to go back to Chicago and, help support my family through that time. And it's interesting because she's been a huge teacher for me, a very big teacher when it comes to death, grief, self-responsibility, and just navigating what it's like to have a family member who's very seriously ill. And I debated sharing this because I know that I'm friends with her family and her friends. And if you guys are watching this, I just want you to know that I have so much respect for Kirsty and the journey that she went through, the fight that she went through. And I am in no way disrespecting her journey or disrespecting her path or disrespecting her name through this episode. I am simply just sharing my own personal process of what it was like to navigate her journey of being really sick and disabled, but also honoring her fight and witnessing her fight and then navigating the transition of her death. And I share this because I think there's really potent teachings and lessons and reflections about grief and about one's own personal process when it comes to navigating the death of a family member, and especially a family member who was sick. So just know that I love Christina and she's been a beautiful addition to the family. And I could not be more grateful for the love that she brought my father. So without further ado, let's jump into the episode. So Kirsty has been in the family for somewhere between 8 to 10 years. And just to give a little background, my parents got divorced, I think in like 2015, something like that. And Kirsty was really the woman that my dad found that really gave him an opportunity to experience what it's like to be in love. They were really this beautiful, incredible match for each other in their own way. And there's definitely a huge contract between them and a beautiful soul bond. I mean, just hearing the way my father talks about her, you'll see it. They were a really beautiful match together. And I have so much respect and gratitude for the love and happiness that she brought my father while she was alive on earth. They got married in February of 2023. And about a few months after their marriage, she had a stroke caused by a blood clot the size of an orange on her brain. Basically got helicoptered to the hospital, almost died, but she survived this incident. And unfortunately, part of the accident left her paralyzed from the left side. And this kind of opened up the journey of my father being her caregiver. And, through the years, this woman fought. I mean, she fought a fight. Since that accident, there were many things that were happening with her kidneys and her heart, and lots of very scary hospital trips that honestly, if she didn't have the medical care that she received, or she didn't have my father by her side, like she could have died. They were very serious. And it just speaks to her strength of her fight these last 3 years and how she kept fighting. But I will say that it was difficult for the family, especially my father, because he not only has a demanding full-time job, he now every day has to come home from work and care for his wife, who can't even get up and go to the bathroom herself. And, you know, through this journey, I held so much compassion and so much patience, but also it was really hard on me as a daughter of my father, because it was like the deeper we went on this journey with her health, it felt like I was losing my father in a way, which is totally understandable, because after work, he just had to come home and take care of her. Like, he didn't have any energy or capacity to hold anything else other than his work and his wife, keeping his wife alive. And also his own mental health and navigating his own journey of handling this situation. And I completely understand, but it was really hard to, as the years went on, just lose more and more of my father's attention. And I think that really took a toll on my heart. And, you know, when it came to Christy and navigating her health, I realized that I was actually holding on to a lot of anger for her. And though she had this fight in her and she just kept on surviving the most, I mean, insane accidents and health problems and conditions that you could ever imagine, in my eyes, it felt like she wasn't really taking care of herself. You know, she was really deep in her own process of the trauma. She was really deep in this victim narrative. She wasn't really watching inspiring things on TV. She was eating really poorly, did nothing to change her diet. Um, you know, didn't drink any water. You know, she wasn't really taking any steps in her day-to-day life to change her mindset or to change her health or to change aspects of what she was feeding her mind, body, and spirit to help her get better. But yet she still wanted to get better. And through the strain that this put on my family and my own personal life, which I shouldn't have let it affect my personal life, but I did. I started to develop this subconscious anger towards her that I didn't really know was present, and that was there. So October 2024, I was going to sit an ayahuasca ceremony. And at this time, I had just completely rebranded my business. And I wanted to go into this ceremony and just really anchor in prayers for this new chapter of Tigrosa Collective, the transition from Tigress Rising to Tigrosa Collective, which is my business and the hub for my offerings, and really just clean and clear away anything within me that was keeping me from soaring and thriving and devoting even deeper to my services, to my offerings, to this next journey. And I went into the ceremony thinking, oh, it's going to be great. And I'm going to feel all this love and magic. And, you know, because I was like feeling good in that moment of life. But you can never really have expectations with Madre Ayahuasca. As some of you may know, she is a sneaky one, but she will always serve you the most amazing medicine that you could ever ask for to help serve your prayers and intentions. So in this ceremony, I reached a moment where I felt the soul of my stepmother, Kirsty. And in this moment, I was first touching the parts of me that were so angry at her, that were judging her process, that were judging her choices of what she was putting into her body and into her mind, and really just judging the whole situation. I was pissed off at, you know, the fact that I had been losing my father, and it almost took all of my father's energy, you know, away from us and the kids to go and help support her, and just the whole situation and the strain it put on the family. But I think what I was most angry about was the fact that, in my eyes and in my view, what someone should do when they're on this incredible journey of healing themselves, she wasn't following. And after this moment, I was then feeling like, oof, her anger for the situation, the depth of, ooh, I don't even know how to describe it, of like terror, desperation of feeling trapped in the situation, her anger at life, her anger towards the whole situation. Like it was almost like she was screaming out through me. Now, I wasn't screaming in the ceremony, but I was definitely very intensely crying. And in this moment, there came this really beautiful transition after all the anger and sadness had passed, both from my own and also what I felt like was hers, right? Because sometimes, especially as someone who's a healer or a facilitator, and there's things going on in the family, sometimes if we're holding on or attached to things, these things can purge out through us, right? So it was like my own shit that I was purging about the situation, but also really, I believe that I was feeling a lot of her pain and her suffering. And so after a couple of vomits later and some really deep cries, I was brought to this beautiful vision where I saw her soul and I saw God. And this very like godly voice came through of, her journey is none of your business. This is a sovereign woman who is allowed to make choices and decisions about her body. And that is none of your business. And God was like, her soul has chosen her date to transition. Also none of your business. And her journey is between herself and God. And that has nothing to do with my father. That has nothing to do with the family. It has nothing to do with her family. Like it has everything to do with her soul's journey. And who are you to distract from your own path, to judge her path and her sovereignty and her choices? The date of her death has been decided. I'm not going to tell you what it is. No one's going to know what it is because it's none of your business. So why don't you clear this, take space from this, and focus on your own sovereignty, focus on your own life choices. And it was in this moment where I was like really humbled and I was like, whoa, I've been giving way too much energy to this. And the light of her soul came through. And the message I really got was like, she just needs someone on her side. This woman is tired of everyone telling her what she should and should not be doing, doctors poking and prodding her. And, you know, she's constantly losing control over her body. And so however she wants to live out this time is her business. And, you know, she just really needs someone on her side. And it was in that moment where I feel like I lost a lot of the stress, a lot of the anger, a lot of the judgment I was placing on her. And I really just opened this new sense of compassion in my heart for her and for her journey and what she was moving through. And I was like, okay, I know my role in this. Like, I just need to be there to support her and just be on her side and be an ally for her. And so that following Christmas, every time when I would come home for Christmas, there would be nights where, you know, my dad would go out and I would care for her, whether it was rubbing her feet, taking her to the bathroom, you know, having like movie nights with her. And it was the Christmas after this, October 2024, where I really just started to like get to know her more, ask more questions about her journey and her mother and her family and what she loved to do as a kid, and just give her this opportunity to just share more about her life and give her whatever help and support that she needed. So after this moment down the years, things began to decline. Her health was declining. She ran into problems with her lungs, her kidneys, her heart, her legs, her joints, her muscles. Like she was challenged for sure. And things started to decline very quickly and very intensely, especially within the past year. And she made it to her and my father's 3rd year wedding anniversary, and she passed 2 days later. And I really believe she held it out to celebrate that milestone with her and her husband, my father. So the moment she died, I had to kind of put pause on everything and go back to Chicago to help support my dad and support the, you know, the transition, everything that comes with a death, you know, finding home for her things and getting all the medical equipment out there. And I'm not going to lie, it was a lot, not only being in the presence of my grieving father and his process with all of the anger just from the entirety of the situation, but me and my brothers had to basically go through all of her things, everything from all of the insane medical equipment that she had to all of her stuff, which God bless this woman, but she was a shopper and she never threw anything away. So we had, after we got all the medical stuff out there, donated it to different centers and hospice places and just finding homes for everything. We now had the job of taking care of her things. And I think, what was really weird for me was like I was the only woman in the situation. So I kind of spearheaded that one. And her family was in a process very deep in grief. So I didn't really get much help and support from them. And my dad was just freaking out. He was like, I need it out. I need all of her stuff out. Like, it's got to go out by this day. So it was a lot of pressure. So we basically gathered all of her things from the house, which was like 4 closets full of her clothes. She had an entire storage unit full of things. I mean, we had a giant U-Haul truck completely filled with all of her items. Now, I will say her son did help and come move everything from the storage unit into the garage and things like that. And eventually one of her sisters did show up at the end of the day to kind of do the last go through of her things and yeah, pick up like things that I had collected that I thought the family had wanted. But it was a lot to be in her life and in her things and to just, be in her energy. And I felt the anger start to resurface again. The anger I just had for the situation, the strain it put on the family, my dad, and everything. And, the service was a lot. It was a very beautiful service, but it was a lot. And it was kind of like this selfishly anger part of me that was like, man, I had to just completely pause my life, my offerings, my business, my service to come here and do a job that I feel like really wasn't my job to do. I'm not her blood daughter. Like, we weren't that close, like we had a relationship for sure. And I had a lot of love for her, but like, I don't know, it just felt like it wasn't my job to do all that. And it was a lot of energy. It was like multiple 8 to 10 hour days doing this hard labor work of like getting everything out of the house and finding homes for everything. And it was a lot. And I remember I came back to Peru after that experience, just heavy, weighed down, angry, sad, like just feeling like I just couldn't hold space for anyone else because I needed to just take care of this internal process that was happening within me. Luckily, a week after I had gotten back, I hosted my maestro, Francisco, at my house where we were going to be working with Huachuma. And this was kind of me deepening my studies into shamanic work and deepening my studies into working with Huachuma medicine. And I remember the first ceremony we had was huge for me. I was very sick. Like, this is the first Huachuma ceremony after getting back from Chicago and having this experience. And, leading up to this, I felt her energy on me. I felt her presence on me. I felt her soul wanting to get my attention, even through the release prayer ceremonies I did and the limpias I did here. Like, she was still very present in my energetic field. And when souls decide to cross over, they always, if they haven't like fully crossed over to the heavens, they're still in that kind of in-between space. They always pick the most spiritually open person possible because, they have more to say and more to do and more questions to ask. But I was just not available to talk to this woman just because I was not centered or grounded within myself. So this first Huachuma ceremony that we sat, I was so sick. Like, I'm talking about 6 or 7 hours of laying on my mat, nauseous, sick, having a hard time purging. Like, it was insane. And I remember a few hours into this experience, like not being able to get this purge out, not being able to vomit, but to be feeling so much pain in my body, so much nausea. I asked Maestro Francisco, I was like, Francisco, what is this? I can't seem to get it out. And he said, it's your stepmother. It's the energy of your stepmother. And in that moment, I felt, again, the trigger of anger come up of like, oh my gosh, like, woman, leave me alone. Like, I've already done so much for you. And just feeling like I needed space and also feeling, again, that anger that lived inside me. And I remember Huachuma, the spirit of Huachuma was like, imagine being this sick for 3 years every single day with the added condition that you're paralyzed and you can't even get up and go to the bathroom. And it was in that moment where I then vomited. I finally got the vomit out. But this huge shift happened of like, whoa, like, again, like, where was my compassion for her journey? Where was my compassion for this woman? Like, I was like, holy shit, like, she went through it. I can't even imagine being that sick for so long and not having control over my body and not having the ability to freely move. And yeah, it was again, the compassion of my heart just opened up and poured into the situation. And it was in that moment that I was finally able to release her and release my anger and my stubbornness from the situation and truly move forward in my life. And it really speaks to the incredible power of these medicines. And since then, I feel so much lighter. I don't feel her energy on me anymore. I feel like the boundaries have been set. I feel like I have more compassion and respect for her journey. I see doors from this situation finally closing within my family. Like everyone's moving on with their lives. And yeah, I share this because I know there's a lot of us who've experienced grief, and maybe there's someone here who is a caretaker for a family member and is experiencing that anger and that grief and that fear and that sadness. Or maybe you have a loved one who had transitioned and they're still lingering, resisting feelings that maybe aren't the most positive, but are real, are raw and true and there and a part of your truth. And so I share these lessons because not only did ayahuasca and Huachuma in two very separate moments show me these teachings, but it also speaks to when we are able to utilize the compassion and love in our heart, it can truly transmit anything. It can transmute the deepest of pains, the deepest of grief, the deepest of anger, and turn it into this beautiful gift of compassion so that we can release whatever it is, the anger, the feelings, the frustration, the pain, the grief. We can release it and return back to love and move on with our lives by navigating our center. And again, I have a lot of respect for Kirsty and her path and her fight. She really was a woman who didn't give up, and she was a woman who was going to do what she wanted to do and say what she wanted to say and eat what she wanted to eat and drink whatever she wanted to drink. And you know what? It was nobody's business but hers. So if you are someone who is moving through grief, maybe you have a family member who's really sick, maybe you're a caretaker for that family member, just remember that all of this, though it may be hitting you very deeply and personally, which like, how could it not? This is between their soul and God. And it's not your job to fix it. It's not your job to bring this person back to health. It's not your job to decide their soul's journey and this person's journey of how they want to navigate this thing. That's between the person and God. And how can you really show up in greater compassion and be an ally for this person, but also continue to set your own boundaries and ensure that you are still living your life, that you are still pouring into your life, that you're focused on your own sovereignty? Because I think sometimes when these situations come up, we as humans, I know this happened to me, can be so distracted with the situation and maybe the deeper feelings that come with it that it distracts us from our own path. So it's really here finding that balance of like when the emotions come up, dealing with it, but not letting it swallow you and take over your whole life. Now, I speak as someone who was just the daughter of the husband who witnessed this. I imagine it can be much deeper for those who are in more immediate proximity to the situation. Yeah, it also speaks to the power of these plant medicines and the magic that they brought me and the healing that they brought me. So I hope with sharing this episode, you were able to receive some potent reflections and teachings and that this resonated with you in some way. Thank you so much for tuning in and staying till the end. And if you're someone who is interested in working with the power of plant medicine, specifically Huachuma, I'm hosting a 8-day women's retreat this September in the Sacred Valley of Peru, where a Huachuma ceremony is most definitely a part of the experience. We'll be working with the healings and teachings of Rose and Huachuma to really help you step into your power as a woman, bring healing to the heart, healing to any wounds that have been keeping you small, and really just open up this amazing space for you to create a new energetic momentum in your life and to plant really beautiful prayers for yourself. I was going over the testimonials of this retreat from past participants, and the shifts that come from this experience are just amazing. Like, I remember one woman was able to heal the pain of her bleeds and her periods and take the leap and jump and leave the United States and go travel to these countries that she was really feeling deeply called to travel to. I've helped women through this retreat experience get back with their soulmates, their partners, their beloved, and start relationships in a whole new way. I've held space for women who are doing amazing projects in the music industry, and through their prayers and the work they did in this retreat, like major success and abundance has come from it. I've had women, get married after this experience, like find their beloved. Like it's amazing what these retreats and experiences can do. But also it's just a really amazing way to connect with sisters all over the world and be in community and go on this amazing healing journey together. So if you're interested, link in the description below. And I'm also opening up 2 spots for my private healing mentorship, which you can read all about in the link below. Thank you all for sticking around. I'm sending you all so much love, and I'm excited to join you on the next episode.